Hey, I just saw Derek leave the podcast studio. Did you guys podcast without me?
We did, actually. Tim and I talked with Derek Evans from Native Solar about integrating solar systems and other resilient systems like backup batteries and generators into the planning of residential homes. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Looking forward to listening to it.
Today on the podcast, we've got Derek Evans with Native Solar. Derek, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your title at Native Solar.
Yeah, so I am our Chief Revenue Officer. So my responsibilities span multiple different functions. I'm in charge of our sales side of conceptually designing our systems, bringing in leads from our different ways that we interact with our builders and our architects partners, maturing those leads into close opportunities and deals, working directly with builders such as yourselves and other architects and engineers to conceptually design the system. Additionally, some of my responsibilities are also on the marketing side, making sure that we can tout the good work that our team does. We are a full end-to-end solar contractor, meaning we do the sales side, we do the marketing side, we do the installation side with our own install crews, and then we also have operation and maintenance folks to manage these assets into perpetuity. So broad base from what we do. So we're not just solar anymore. We're more energy-based, resiliency.
Right. Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about this as kind of the market
yeah.
shifted since that dreaded word Superstorm Uri or the Winter Storm Uri that hit us back in 21.
Yeah.
So happy to be here and excited to talk a little bit about how we do things and how we work on the upfront side of things.
Good.
Does your area cover a specific place in Texas or beyond Texas? Where do you service?
Yeah, so we're based out of Dripping Springs. So we got an office right there on 290, but we cover the entire state of Texas. So we have crews in Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. Cover everything from El Paso to Texarkana to Amarillo down to Brownsville and everything in between. Obviously, the majority of our work takes place along the I-35, I-45 corridor where the major metropolitans are, but our roots are here in the Austin market.
Cool.
Good. Your office is actually in Dallas.
Yeah,
is that right?
yeah. I live in Dallas, North Dallas. I'm halfway between Dallas and Oklahoma, I like to say, so way up there in the burbs. So we cover the entire state, and we manage through the different regional differences. So
Good. Well, tell us how you got here and your professional journey that led you to be in the position that you're in.
Yeah, so I never thought I'd be here, let alone sitting here. So I'm thankful for that. But I graduated college. I'm a Duke grad. So go Blue Devils. And after school, worked at Ford Motor Company in their finance rotational program for 4 or 5 years, and got the call in to go be a consultant. So like to call myself, I'm a recovering management consultant because you never really recover from those years. Spent 13 years consulting across the nation with multiple companies, Fortune 500 and the like, and then decided I wanted to go into business for myself. So I left consulting and went into business selling custom golf carts with my cousin in North Dallas.
That's a change.
It was a big change. So he had started a custom golf cart shop where we would tear down carts, build them back up, and then customize it to the likes of the people that wanted to tool around the different neighborhoods. Sold that business and then wanted to get solar on my house. So I contacted Native Solar to get solar. And by the end of that consultation where I was trying to buy solar, I was offered a job to come work at Native Solar. And here I sit. So that was about 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Amazing.
Great.
Very interesting journey. So
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Absolutely. Well, let's shift the conversation to work in process and the way that sort of you become engaged on a project, a residential project. There are different ways that can go about. Obviously, sometimes you can be contacted directly from the homeowner. Sometimes it's from us or the architect. Talk a little bit about those different types of interactions and how you sort of determine initially what are the needs or wants of the project.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you hit the nail on the head. How we interact on these new construction projects or how we get engaged are varied in terms of who reaches out. Obviously, with some of our trusted partners, when y'all reach out, you provide the right information because we've done work before. But the idea is that for us on any new construction, it's looking at what the homeowner's intent is, right? And sometimes a lot of times it's difficult to find that out, right? So you may interact, directly with the architect, and you'll ask the architect, well, what's the homeowner's intent? Why are they doing this? What's their reason? Because their reason is what's going to drive the conceptual model. Is it around resiliency? Is it around wanting to be green? Is there some ROI? Is it around tax credits and tax savings that are driving some of these decisions? And for us, we just want to understand that because that allows us to make sure we hit, and this is where my consulting side comes out, we hit the requirements that are laid out, as many of them as we can. So having those conversations, with the architect, with the builder as yourself, or the homeowner, sometimes we get the information. There are a lot of projects we'll never speak to the homeowner, so we have to speak via the builder, via the architect, and sometimes those, and those all have different and varying results of how we get to that final answer. Because at the end of the day, the homeowner is the one that's going to be utilizing the system. The homeowner is the one that's expecting the results from the system, from whatever they may be. So the more we can align early in the process allows us to make sure that we can hit the right design, and then obviously iterate on it to make sure we fit into all the different categories, whether it's budget and requirements and all the things that are expected on projects like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, our pre-construction process, that's kind of how we talk about everything. As early as possible is the best, because really there's so many decisions that affect other parts of the project that if we can all collaborate early on, then that's of the most benefit to everyone on the team.
So I want to get a little bit in the weeds on the process through design. And if an architect or a homeowner or builder brings you on board and says the project is interested in some amount of resiliency or solar supplementation, what factors are you looking for to determine what that system might look like, as far as the size or how it's paired with maybe battery storage or paired with a generator? What information are you looking for, asking for from the team to determine all those things that you need to come back with a proposal?
Sure. I mean, obviously, step one is the architectural plan. Whatever state they're in, whether they're 30%, 90% ready for construction, consuming those plans is paramount to what we do. And I've trained my team and my organization to be able to read everything in it, even the general notes that no one likes to read.
Right. Yeah, that's where the information
that's where the
is.
real information sits.
Yeah.
The pictures are nice and pretty, and how it faces on the lot. But the general notes will give you a lot more insights, or all the different nuances that you may not. So we read it, and a lot of times I'll have architects send me a snippet of the plan, just the electrical side, because that's what they think. Where I'm looking at, I need to see the elevations. I'm looking at style. I'm looking at all the different components. So for us, we want to see the entire plan, even the things that may not be traditionally considered part of electrical or solar or resiliency or energy, because it allows us to understand, well, what is the, as we go back to the original statement, what are the requirements? Right, most of our your clients or custom clients are looking at very refined installation. So I want to note that in what we're looking at. So those kind of things, we can digest the entire design. If there is a mechanical, electrical design, an engineer that's involved, we'll take those in. We'll understand the line diagrams and the components that are there, and then we'll look at what that electrical infrastructure. We care about the electrical infrastructure from the meter or from the transformer, all the way through all the loads that are being supported or looked at. We care about all those things because our systems will interact with everything across that entire electrical schema, so to speak. So the more of that we can get earlier, the better. For us, the roof is there, right? We need a roof. We need it facing the right way, preferably south. If for all the folks out there listening, south is best in terms of the amount of production, less facets, simpler, things like that. So we want to look at that, but that's par for the course. If we're doing solar, we need a roof. The rest of the design, the infrastructure, the electrical, that's where the nitty gritty kind of comes into, how do I back up the right amount of loads, right? How do I shed loads? what's the load calc look like from the electrician or the electrical contractor or the engineer? They're saying how much that's going to be. Those tend to be more important than where am I placing solar. I can find places to put solar, but the rest of that infrastructure, because when I start changing those, that's when I start impacting your trades.
Right.
Oh, I got to move this. Why is this over here? That's on the wrong side of the house. Can we do this? Well, how does it impact the landscaping, the grading, the civil, the components like that? The roof, once the roof's up, there's no one else going up there, right? Yeah. But the rest of the infrastructure becomes more important.
Yeah.
Do you see many projects that have large enough site where you can put the solar off the roof?
We do,
in a backyard.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, ground mounts, carports are also as well. So if you have, the ability to shade your cars or your vehicles, we'll do carports and we'll do ground mounts that are in the back, and those things are also easier to do than than one might expect from that standpoint. So if the lot size, if the HOA allows, because sometimes we have to deal with the HOA,
that's part of the factor.
Part of the factor, then we have customers that have to deal with. Oh, I want to screen it. So what kind of plants should we put in that don't grow too high so they don't shade it in the future? So things like that all kind of come into play for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is those initial conversations you said you have where the wants, the needs, what's the intention of the homeowner, that has to be balanced by the site conditions. If they want something that requires a tremendously large array, but they don't have room for a large array, then that's a conversation that needs to be had. And okay, so what can we do with what we have?
Yeah, no, those are great, great points. I think we run into a lot of that with the battery.
Yeah.
What do you want to back up, and how much? Oh, I want everything.
Everything.
I want everything. So the dishwasher, the drawer, the plate warmer.
Yeah.
Is that everything? Oh, no, not the plate warmer. I can do without the plate warmer when the grid's down. So when you start breaking those kind of conversations down, we can start refining it, because every yes adds to more budget.
Yeah.
Right. Every time you say yes, we add budget, right? So the goal is to hit whatever the homeowner's desires are and to meet those requirements, whether they're budget or scope or, the resiliency. I think there's a lot of folks that we run into that have a lot of scars from not having power. Right. And those scars are still healing, especially what we've experienced here in Texas. And so, we want to make sure that we can help them meet those needs. I had a homeowner just had a baby when Uri hit, and he has a 2-month-old baby with no power for 2 weeks. Right. Yeah. So those are kind of things that knowing those and having those conversations will help us to design.
I think that's a great point in that, especially in Texas, I don't say that Texans are strange or anything, but we historically have loved our independence, and independence to the extent that we don't really rely on other entities to support our lifestyle or our needs, and that having that backup resiliency seems to be extremely important to the people that we work for and the people we design houses for. So it's easy to understand. Yeah.
It is.
Now, it gets expensive. I mean, my understanding, having worked with you, that just a solar array to supplement utility power is fairly reasonably priced. And currently, for a very brief period of time, we had the ability to take some substantial amount of tax credit or tax deduction for it. I think that's getting nuanced now, or maybe phasing out over time. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But once we had substantial long-term power outages, generators, battery backup systems, load shedding devices became part of it and doubled and tripled the cost.
Yeah. Well, you can think about it. A lot of that is, there's, and I didn't mention this in the beginning, but one of the hats I wear is helping to direct people towards their accountants and CPAs around the tax credits that we can kind of talk into, right?
Yeah,
but a lot of it also is we have to look at what the code is, right? The National Electric Code defines a lot of the things we can and can't do, and that's where load shedding has come into play. That's where the sizing of generators have come into play. There's products out there that allow us to better manage loads but provide access. I think that's one of the greatest things that we have now, is that we're not hardwiring. These are the 5 loads you have. You have access to these 40 loads, but when the grid goes down, you got 5. And then you can play around with it and you can move things and whether you're home or not. And so it gives you that access. And I think, especially as Texans, and I want to say I'm a newly minted Texan. I've been here since 2015. I'm a New Yorker originally. No, don't hold that against me. If anyone from Texas.
We'll edit that part out.
And so having access, I think, is really important too, right? So there's enough decisions to be made in the design of a house to then say, well, what loads do I want when this house is built and the grid goes down at some point in time in the future? Yeah. So if we can take away some of those decision points that have to be made during the design phase, we allow for a better overall solution and experience from our mutual customers.
Yeah, right. I think a big part of what you and us as the builders have to do once we determine the intention of the clients is educate them what the options are. Because these systems are complicated and complex, and there's a variety of ways that things can be configured and done. And, when they are investing a tremendous amount of money into these systems, they want to know what they're getting and how it works. And so you also have to spend, and us too, quite a bit of time explaining what the options are, how it's going to work, and those types of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, my marketing director sitting over in the corner is going to love when I say this. We have to focus on the client. We have to be customer centric in terms of that. And as in our role, we have multiple customers. I have you as my builder, right? We're interacting, we're coordinating, the funds are flowing through you. I have the architect who's dictating what the designs are, and I have the end homeowner. Sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't, sometimes I talk to them, but we have to balance all those customers, right? And so having that customer centric focus, I think, is really key for us to make sure that we can deliver on all of those fronts, right? We have, from my marketing and sales side, right, dealing with some of the project development. We have our ops team that's actually doing the project management and scheduling the crews and ordering the material and coordinating with your company and builders. Part of the thing that we also do a lot of, we coordinate with the electrical contractors that you hire. Right. Where are we dividing scope? Right. We don't try to take scope from any electrical contractor. We're all partnered in this, but who's doing the underground? Who's doing the stub ups? Right. All that stuff has to be determined. And the more we can do that in the pre-design phase, the less we're trying to do in the field and trying to figure things out.
And that goes back to the importance of getting engaged early, because there's the education, there's the coordination, there's all the planning, which all of that takes a lot of time. And we don't ever want to feel like the clients are rushed to make decisions about things. And so getting in early, explaining all these things, doing all this planning, spending the time before we start construction, I think is paramount to a successful project.
Yeah. How's the architect community, the design community responding to this new interest in solar and all the other components relative to what their design intent might be?
So I think for them, it's for the first time, and a lot of my architect partners, I think they struggle because they don't know where to turn. Right? Solar contractors have been, retrofitting and this kind of thing, but where do I turn to give me design support? And so, even on some of the larger projects, we'll do a design contract directly with the architect to provide them support in getting something for their client, right? So we'll work directly for the architect for that piece and go, great, because there's going to be because there's work involved.
Yep.
There's a lot of work involved in trying to figure these things out and answering these questions and being available and having pen to page to go, here's a conceptual of what you're going to do and here's how it's going to look, and do we need to make the parapet a little bit taller because a line of sight from the left side of the house can now see that panel that's up there, right? And so all those things kind of come into play. So I think they've been open to it because, especially for us, because I don't think they've had people they can reach out to. Right. So who can I talk to and ask this question to who isn't trying to sell me solar? I'm not trying to sell solar. I need a partner. I want partnerships. And at the end of the day, yes, maybe you'll buy solar from me. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll buy batteries. Maybe you won't. But the partnership for me is what you get. Right. And so how do I help you become more knowledgeable? So you as a contractor, right? You as a builder, you as an architect, you as an MEP, I want to give you a new tool for your bag. And you can then use that tool when I'm not around, or and it adds to your portfolio of what you can do and what you can deliver for your clients. So I've had architects say, "Well, I just tell my client not to get solar because I didn't know where to turn, or not to get batteries." So we just say no, convince them not to. Now they have somewhere to turn. Yeah, right. So I think that's really important from that standpoint to go, how do we make everyone more okay? Yeah. with being able to say, yeah, I have someone to turn to that can answer these questions. I'm not out on an island.
Right. Right.
I think for us, in again going back to pre-construction, when we are doing our discovery and sort of our initial interviews with the clients, we ask them the questions about resiliency and what types of things they have interest in, just to bring it up from the beginning, because some people don't even know that it's an option or haven't thought about it, and I think that's right.
Yeah, and then finding a partner who can go with you for your journey. I mean, if I were to ask you how long is your pre-construction time frame, it's not weeks.
Right.
Sometimes it's months and years for pre-construction. Well, you need a partner to be with you for that entire time frame, So
Right.
and those are good partners to find, but hard to find.
Yeah.
So when you find them, hold on to them and say, "Hey, I'm not going to let you go." Right. So
That's right. That's right.
If you're coming from another area of the country, the way we approach custom home design might be different than what they might be used to. But the idea is, if we can gather teams together that involve those specialty contractors that know better than anyone how to design and implement their systems. Early in the design, it can be accommodated by the architectural style and design. It can be accommodated by the systems that it integrates with, the electrical, maybe the air conditioning. It just yields a better, thoughtful project in the end. So we intentionally try to do it that way, and that's, I think, why what you've experienced is us trying to engage and enlist you early in the
and I'm appreciative of that. So I keep that coming. You don't know where the end is, right? But we're all working for that same end together. So to the folks out there, if you have a partner that you can bring them along early, right? And so have those conversations. And I'll say this to the solar contractors that listen, be okay iterating. Your first answer isn't the end answer, right? The design process, if you've ever designed a home or built a custom, it's not like, hey, every decision is done and that's it, right? Sometimes you go back and then you come back to it and then it becomes a real decision, but it's not. And so be okay knowing that. But also to the builder community, know that us contractors will price that in to be there for you to support those interactions, right? Because it is time, right? And we spend a lot of time. I call Tim all the time and we talk about these projects and this, and I called Daniel after we had projects going and we talk through all these different components. There's a lot that goes into these more high-end custom systems that are delivering these really stated requirements.
Good. Yeah. I hate to get off into the weeds, but I know somebody that's listening.
You don't hate to get off into the weeds.
Somebody that's listening is going to ask the question we get sometimes. Is it possible to create or design a truly off-grid system?
Yeah, it is. It just requires dollars, right?
Yeah. Can they, during a period of extended power outage, resource outage, could they effectively enjoy the true functionality, complete functionality of their home?
Yep.
Or would they have to sacrifice some limitation to what they can do on a day-to-day basis?
If a client wants every aspect of their home to be energized and powered in an off-grid situation, and I will preface this that we have customers that only are off-grid to begin with. There is no utility power.
Wow.
And they're building an off-grid home and we're powering the home. Right? They may make decisions in that design process, but the home is truly off-grid. We have one down in the Woodlands that's a full off-grid house, right? So yes, the answer is yes. What you'll find, though, is that people that are off-grid tend to know what they consume and how they consume. They're looking at their monitoring. They become aware of what, because they are so resilient, right? Or they're self-reliant in that standpoint. But the answer is fundamentally yes. It's just depending on the budget that's available and what are you bringing to the house. Are you bringing in a lot of loads? Are you doing all heat pumps? Is there any propane on the site? Or things like that will add to what that looks like. But the answer is equivalently yes. We can do fully off-grid homes.
Wow. I think too you have to think about, Tim, if someone's intention is to be fully off-grid and they know that from the beginning, the way that the house is constructed
and designed,
designed is that goes into that as well.
Sure.
Or should.
Exactly. But to just take an average typical home and switch it to off-grid, yeah, you can do it, but it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. I think we ran into that obstacle one time where we took a home that was pretty well designed already, and the client brought up, well, could we be without power, for a substantial length of time? And the answer kind of was like, well, you could, but there's a lot of things to be considered that were very, very expensive.
And I would advise anyone, and if you have the grid available to you, take the grid.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So if you have, we talked a lot about resiliency, or Tim here around, all right, solar, battery, generator are your first three lines of resiliency. And then the grid's your fourth, right? So even if you produce enough energy to not have an energy bill, let's just say, or your very low energy bill, that $20 a month you pay for just to be connected is a nice fourth insurance plan for power.
Yeah.
Right. So never disconnect from the grid if the grid's there. Right.
Yeah.
But yes, you can build a system that utilizes it very infrequently or not at all, even though it still might be connected. So
Interesting.
What would you say are some common misconceptions that people have about resilient systems?
I think that there are some really great companies that have great footing in the market, but they have limitations on what they can deliver. Right. So our most well-known products can't support cleanly systems or homes that have more than 200 amps of service. But they're the most marketed and well-known names, and we can name them all, and they're all the same. They have those kind of limitations. So when you start thinking about those kind of things, I think that they do a great job of marketing, and we appreciate their marketing dollars and their spend because it drives folks to us and insight. And we want our customers to be knowledgeable. The more knowledgeable the customer is, the better it is for all of us, I believe. But just knowing those limitations from what's out there and what's known versus, hey, how do I deliver a more robust, when I have larger loads and I have larger homes and I have, I want larger batteries that are outside the scale and scope of what our traditional partners that we use on our more traditional homes, 200 amp service type homes.
Sure.
So 200 amps or less, talking about a solar array, it's much more sort of plug and play, simplistic.
Yep.
Panels, inverters, done.
Battery done, all kind of same product line, all, versus when you start getting 200 or 400, 600, 800, 1200 amp services, you start going, okay, great, I'm creating a power plant.
Right.
Right. I have my own power plant. Right. So our larger services will have a utility yard. And typically those utility yards are 20 by 20, 20 by 30.
Yeah, that's right. You need a place for that
right.
stuff.
So we just did one out in Tyler. We had the builder dig out the entire utility yard. We did all the underground. They're going to backfill it, put a pad over everything, and everything's going to be stubbed up from the entire, and it's a 20 by 20 utility yard with 800 amps of service and generator in it. Right. So those become more robust, let's say, from that kind of standpoint. So I think that's what, we do a lot with, deal a lot with our homeowners that are knowledgeable, but there's limitation from when you start getting into the tech specs.
Right.
For sure.
I'm going to quantify that a little bit in that when you talk about the size of an electrical service and setting 200 amps is sort of a benchmark. Traditionally for decades, a 200 amp service was a good size, a custom home that had 2 or maybe 3 air conditioning units, had an electric oven, maybe a gas cooktop, electric dryer, maybe. And that was it. Now we're adding car chargers. That's 50 amps a piece. We're adding induction cooktops. That's another 50 amps, So very quickly we can jump up to 320 amps, 400, 600 amps.
Yep.
Without even changing the size of the home, the volume of the home much at all.
Yeah.
So all those things, I'm sure, make it more complex.
100%. And there are some products out there that help you to keep at that 200 amp level because they are monitoring the draw and it fits within the code
Directs it different
and directs
places.
it differently.
Right.
So you can add more than 200 amps to a service and keep the service at 200 amps, right? So there is some innovation that's taking place because we know that the electrification is happening, right? The loads are bigger, there are more of them. The efficiencies are getting better, so everyone's moving more electric. And then depends on where you build further out, there is no gas, right? So are you doing propane or are you gonna go with the electric that you have there? So that we're seeing that everywhere we go. So that changes what people think. and how we build it and what do we do and what's even available in the market to support what we're doing. A lot of what we're doing is leading edge, right? Batteries have been around forever. Solar's been around forever, right? Microgrids, but putting them all together and making it do what that person wants to do, that's still new stuff.
Yeah.
That's still new stuff. The technology's great. Our partners are great. The manufacturers are great, but it's still new.
With that, are you seeing what you guys have? Obviously, products that you work with and that you like and have proven themselves. Are there things coming on the market that you guys test out? How does that operate?
Yeah, no, we go through a pretty detailed vetting process of the products that we use, right? And we don't switch products easily. We don't bring on new products easily. We like to test them out there. We are part of a purchasing co-op, and our co-op vets manufacturers for us. So that's one thing that helps us.
Wow, that's amazing.
So we don't have to go through the detailed process. So they vet panel manufacturers and inverters and battery companies and things like that. So we have that kind of going for us as well. And then as we start putting them together, I think it becomes conversations with ourselves, our electrical engineering partners, our MEP partners, our builders. Yeah. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. What other things are integrating? And we've stubbed our toe, right? We've all stubbed our toe. Like, this is all the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the bread's moldy, right? And the bread's moldy, right? So you kind of so it's doing it cautiously, right? So we're not going all full in on this new product. And now we got 100 of them out there, and we're like, oh no, that was the wrong product, right? Yeah. It's testing it in the right spot with the right partners, and go, hey, this is a test, or this is new, right? And then if we stub our toe on it, we're there to back it up and make it right? Because we know there's some newness in this, a lot of newness in this industry.
Mm-hmm. Good. Mm-hmm. Well, before we close, let me ask you any other thoughts about your recommendations to a client who's thinking about building a new home, might want to do something in terms of resilient power, or their design professionals, the architects? Any thoughts about advice you might give them early on before they engage the team?
Yeah, I think for me, it's, I think traditionally a lot of when we see from our architect partners, when we think of electrical plan, it's usually around lighting, the par for the course in terms of what's that electrical plan look like. I would ask our architect friends out there, think about where you're putting the gear, the equipment, right? Because that has a bigger impact on resiliency and how we deal with resiliency than the lighting plan, which is needed. We need to know where we're stringing lights, or where you're all stringing lights and things like that. But where is the gear going to be placed? Are we exterior? Are we in the garage? Are we splitting up panels? Why are we splitting up panels? Are we splitting up panels to save money on the EC side, then puts money back on the solar side, versus putting all the panels centrally located? We see lots of houses that have sub panels spread throughout the house. That makes it more difficult to back up, right?
Yeah,
it might make your Romex runs shorter, right? On things like that, but it makes your ability to, if a one load got put on the wrong panel or needed to be backed up, to move them as we're going through that process. The earlier we're engaged to have those conversations with the builder, the architect, the MEP, the electrical contractor, we can avoid some of those mistakes in terms of why place it here. What does it do to the overall budget of the project, which I care about for your standpoint? What is it for the overall, even if we save on this side, what does it do on the other side of the coin when we start doing that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So I think those things are kind of, when you think about those, the actual gear, as we get bigger and bigger, systems get bigger. For an 800 amp service, a switch is 7 feet tall by 4 feet wide. Yeah. And I need 3 of them.
Yeah.
Where am I placing that?
Yeah.
Do you want that on your beautiful, hand carved stone wall?
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to see it when you drive into your garage? Do you so the aesthetic side of this as well? We work with the architects around, what do you want your utility walls to look like in your utility yard? How tall do you need to make them? Does it impact the line of sight from the building? So all those kind of things that you think about, well, the gear size, where do I place it? It's not just a panel that's recessed into a wall anymore.
That's right.
And a meter that's on the outside with a disconnect. You're talking about major electrical equipment and the pipe and the conductors to put it all together, right? So those pre-planning, I think, are critical as we kind of think through, how do I engage a great solar partner, energy partner, as I like to say, for resiliency and this kind of work.
Nice.
That's good.
I have a couple of just like maybe stat questions for you.
Yeah.
What is like the largest residential array you've put in, and what is more a typical size? What is that range?
Yeah, so we got an active project right now. It is 70 kW of solar.
Wow.
And the one we just did for you was what? I think 20 kW, so almost 3.5 times the solar.
That's big.
Yeah, so 70 kW of solar, 230 kWh of battery,
Oh my gosh.
and 100 kW generator.
And this is a residential.
Residential.
One house. Yeah.
One house in the Driftwood area.
Wow.
I think that's the largest in terms of the stats of it. Typically for, I'll say a standard, and the folks on the can't see my air quotes here. If you're listening, the typical standard is probably somewhere between 15 and 20 kW, 15 to 25 kW.
Yeah.
And 20 to 40 or 50 kWh of battery, just depending on how much runtime you want.
Right.
When the grid's out. And then generators between the 20 and 48 kW, just based on that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And then, so what, roughly speaking, what percentage of projects are strictly solar? What are solar and battery, and what are all three with the generator?
Yeah, it's interesting. Before 21, when the winter storm hit here in Texas, we were probably 95% solar only.
Yeah.
And now we're probably 95% of our projects have battery attachment.
Is that right?
So it has become a core of what we've done or what we do. We've had to hire and train our folks to be more, energy and electrician versus just panels on the roof. Mm-hmm. The panels on the roof are par for course now versus all the components. So we've switched and flipped that from a residential standpoint, where most of our jobs are batteries.
I think to that point, I think it's interesting for our audience to know that a solar array on the roof is great for supplementing utility power and decreasing your utility bill.
That's correct.
But in the absence of battery alignment alongside the solar array, it doesn't really do much for you in a power outage.
That's correct. Yeah. So in a power outage, the solar is I like to say, nice roof ornaments without a battery capacity. Right. I will say for our listeners on the East and West Coast, batteries also have a great return on investment for their clients because energy rates are so much higher on your coast. So they use that to offset during time of use and things like that. So batteries have a larger play in a return on investment on the East Coast and West Coast of the U.S. Because of the higher energy rates. But from a resiliency, if your customer is worried about not having power, right, that's when the batteries come into play.
Gotcha.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of it too is the innovation of battery. There's a lot more options than there were even 5 years ago. Is that right?
I mean, The number of options have exploded.
Yeah.
So my phone is ringing off the hook with other sales reps trying to sell me product all the time. And so we're very, very cautious on who we pick, right? We want to make sure the company's well capitalized, that they're here for the long term, because Nave's been in business 19 years.
Yeah.
Right. And so for us, we know we're going to be there to support our clients. So I got to pick a product that I can stand behind 19 years from today.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not just looking at, what's the latest or who's got the best specs or the best price, because that will lead me down bad paths.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. What else you got there, Tim?
Well, I'm going to put my Chelsea hat on here.
Okay.
If you can imagine that. Normally, Chelsea asks when we close the podcast, what would you be doing if you weren't doing what you're doing now? And since you've given us this incredibly interesting history of where you've been to get here, I got a feeling you've settled into really what you want to do and you wouldn't do anything different. But
I think he'd go back to golf carts.
So it's interesting. I've always asked myself, what keeps me getting up in the morning?
Right.
And for me, it's about developing people and solving problems. So I would go wherever I can continue to develop people, team members, clients, relationship partners, whatever it might be, drive into that, right? That's what keeps me going. And then where can I solve problems? I'm naturally a problem solver. Ask my wife. I probably solve too many problems, right? I'm always trying to solve problems versus, So, but at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking to do. Can I solve a problem? What's that problem? Can I take it in? Can I break it down to its pieces? And so for me, the industry is great. I love being part of the built environment. I never thought I'd be part of the built environment where I can go and say, hey, I have really soft hands. I don't build anything. My team does a lot of building. But I said, we built that, right? I can touch and feel it. I can see it. There's tangible, when I was in consulting, I would build things, but they were intangible. There might have been an organization or a software that we installed or something like that. So having something tangible, and solving problems and growing people, whatever fits those three, I do that too.
Okay. All right. We'll find that.
Great answer. Great answer. Well, thank you. We really appreciate your being with us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you
been
for
fun.
inviting me. This is awesome, and I couldn't wish for anything more. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Derek. That's it for another episode of Work in Process. Thanks for listening. If you've got a question, a topic suggestion, or want to start a project with us, send an email to hello@risingerbuild.com.
You can also find us on Instagram at risingerbuild_ATX or on YouTube by searching Risinger Build. We'd love to hear from you.